Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us here today for the celebration of the completion of this project here, and
that's not the last time that's going to happen.
And the following ribbon cutting here along Route 18 in the great city of New Bedford. We're standing in the middle of a great project, one focused on connectivity, safety, and economic development, and it looks really nice too. As the head of our highway division, I'll say that we are very proud of this job, like every job, but we know that this one is special because it preserves the historic nature of the neighborhood, and it also includes safety improvements, which are a win for everyone. Here today with us are members of the city and state government, business leaders, my staff from District 5, our contractor, and we will be hearing from some of our elected leaders, Senator Montigny, Mayor Mitchell, Representatives Cabral and Strauss, also are here with us today. I would first like to invite our Secretary of Transportation and my boss, Richard Davey, to the podium to make a few remarks. Thank you.
I thought you worked for the governor, Frank. All right, that's good. I appreciate that. Well, good afternoon, everyone. I couldn't be more proud to be here on behalf of Governor Patrick to have this great announcement about Route 18's opening. And it's not just about a road, as the governor says. It's about investing in ourselves, and it's about investing in jobs and economic development, but also about reconnecting the waterfront to downtown New Bedford. A lot of good things are happening in this city. I have been here, I think, many times in my tenure in the last 2 years. We'll let him go by. Can I revoke his license? No, I won't. Reconnecting the waterfront and making investments in all cities and towns across the state. And that, the governor feels strongly about that. Obviously, we wouldn't be here today without partnerships. In the state legislature, we'll obviously hear from a number of folks today, Senator Montigny, the chairman of transportation, Bill Strauss, who has my cell phone and uses that privilege often, chairman, and Tony Cabral as well. Bonding committee, obviously important to get these kinds of projects off the ground. We need to borrow in order to make investments. And then finally, Jon Mitchell, who's invited me down a number of times to see this and a few other things I think he's got cooking. But a lot of activity, a lot of good work has gone into it. And finally, to my D5 team, Mary Jo and her team, I know this has been a long project, but one that we've worked very cooperatively with the city to get done. I really appreciate that. And then finally to Barney Frank, who frankly got a lot of the federal dollars here and throughout the district. We're so happy. So again, this is all about partnerships, local, legislative, and federal, to get good projects like these done. So thank you for having me here today. I'll kick it back to Frank.
Thank you, Secretary Davey. I'd next like to invite Senator Montigny to say a few words. We were talking briefly before this event started, and he mentioned to me that I believe it was 1998 you said that he started advocating for this project. So, Senator, congratulations.
It takes a while in government. Thank you. Before I begin, Ron LaBelle, can you give us a big wave hiding halfway back there? A big round of applause, not only... I asked Ron before the podium today where all the workers were, and of course he said just what he should have said. They're working, and they're up at Custom House Square, another project funded through the legislature and the governor, working with city officials. But Ron, hopefully you will carry back to the folks that made this beautiful project what it is. You carry back our appreciation. It's been a long time coming. I think it was 1998. I think I earmarked this in a budget, actually, and it was vetoed by Governor Cellucci, but we found a way to get the money. God rest his soul. He just happened to disagree with us on this one. Since that time, a lot of good things have happened. But some of the folks that aren't here today perhaps deserve a pat on the back. I think of Tony Souza and the volunteers at the Waterfront Historic League. It's great to have Mike Murray on my staff, who's now chair of that board. You can carry it back to your funders and volunteers. It's been fun the last 5 or 6 years. Most of the work has been physical work by great people who do this kind of craft. But for us as elected officials, most of the work happened long ago, and it frankly was a lonely place. Representative Cabral, Representative Kazera, Representative Strauss, and others sat in a room, and there was more criticism than cheerleading. It was, why would you spend $20 million to build the Star Store in downtown New Bedford when you can build it for half that out on the campus? Well, the whole point wasn't to fill space. The whole point was to bring this city, in a sense, back to its future. The artists and the musicians never left. In fact, the artists and the musicians and a few hardy entrepreneurs were the only ones who really believed that if you took these natural assets and polished them up a bit, you'd have one of the most extraordinary downtowns in the country. That is a fact. I think it's good that we cheerlead, because I think that folks in this city that haven't seen a whole lot of the rest of the world don't appreciate how lucky we are. Most of our critics from outside have never been here to see how beautiful the city is. There's nothing more galling than that to me, perhaps because this isn't my job. It's like most of you, it's a passion. This is where we live. This is where we raise our children. And there's a great deal of pride, but perhaps a bit of a chip on the shoulder, because it is tiring. When I look around, and I'll just give you an example, I bring people in from out of town as often as I can. And I had someone in competition. I had someone in town from the Middle East last night, and she was struck by the beauty of this city. And I could not explain to her how much we struggle with self-image here, as well as how much we defend from those from outside that spend lots of their tourist dollar to visit places that are far less impressive, far less beautiful, and certainly far less natural in the asset. So how does that all relate to this project in Route 18? Very simply. When we started out, there were a few in a room that really believed in it, with a vision that if you exploited that creative economy, if you brought the artists and musicians back into a critical mass and gave them a place to perform, in a sense, if you build it, they will come. With the Star Store being the impetus, our belief was that once you brought the bodies in, 2,000 students now down here that weren't here before that day, galleries, coffee shops, wonderful places to have a drink and to eat, and at the end of the day, all of the public investment, and that includes the money earmarked for Route 18, all of that public investment has returned, as it should, when you invest taxpayer money, it's returned exponentially, the private investment. You look around, when we started in 1998, when we earmarked this money, most of the storefronts were empty. Folks were not living down here by choice. The place closed up at 5 o'clock, and most of the comments about the place were negative. You now look at it, all of the storefronts are thriving, or most. There are more restaurants, good restaurants, than probably any other place around, at least per square foot. And there are hundreds of people living down here by choice. So let me close by saying this, because the sum of all of these parts, the assets are tremendous. They're obvious, they're clear. But when you take a beautiful downtown and a very unique working waterfront, and you combine them, and Route 18 is urgent to that, because it's sort of the zipper that combines the past and the future and the waterfront and the history here. But think about it. You now have state paid for ferry terminal, all of the money that we've earmarked for the pier and for the cell terminal and for other projects. So you've got folks on the waterfront in a critical mass, and you've got folks here enjoying the arts and cultural district without a safe way to combine that. The whole now clearly is greater than the simple sum of the parts, and I'm proud to join all of those artists and musicians that stuck with us, the small business folks that struggled down here, the city workers, the mayor, his predecessors, the city councilors, but particularly, and I'll close with this, particularly when I think of the fact that long ago, the federal government stopped funding a lot of projects, although we were very lucky, as mentioned earlier, to have Barney Frank on the federal side. But ultimately, almost all of the downtown revitalization has relied on state money, which is not easy to come by. And I can't say enough about Tony Cabral and Bob Kazera and Bill Strauss. We work every day and have earmarked millions, but the private investment return has been far more significant. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator. I also would like to acknowledge our host today, Mayor Mitchell of New Bedford. The mayor has watched the progress of this project very closely, and him and his staff from the city of New Bedford have worked closely with our District 5 staff to ensure that we have a successful completion in the great project and product that we have today. And I'd like to invite the mayor to say a few words. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. Yeah, let me, and on that score, Frank, let me start with an apology for all the times, and this is directed at Mary Jo and the staff at District 5, for every time I've come down here and fly-spec this project and said, you know, that weed is out of place and that blade of grass and that sign and so forth. But I want to thank you guys for being very patient with me. But there are a lot of people to thank for this project. It is a big project. It is a signature project, and there's a lot of credit to go around. So let me start with the Patrick administration. Governor Patrick, more than anybody who has held his office, has supported the growth of this area, has embraced our ideas over the course of his governorship, and he is a governor who recognizes that that governors and state governments in general operate best when they support the initiatives of cities. Cities are where the action is at. Cities are where the nation's economy is driven from. And we work best when we've got support like we have from Governor Patrick and his team. And chief among his team is my friend Rich Davey, who has done a bang-up job in running the State Department of Transportation, along with Frank DiPolo, and making what had been a very sclerotic bureaucracy operate like a business, an organization that is making the most of taxpayer dollars and doing it in a, and I hate this word because it's not really a word, impactful way. It really does, they make investment decisions in the way that business people make them, so that, that we, the public, can enjoy the highest payoff possible. I want to thank the state delegation for being there for us and for supporting this project all the way through, back from the late 90s all the way till now. We have a lot of work to do going forward, but I want to thank in particular those whom you see here who've been here from the start. Senator Montigny, Representative Cabral, Representative Kazera, and Representative Strauss. They've been advocating vociferously for projects like these over the years, and they are truly to be commended. I want to thank Ron LaBelle and his team for working so hard, and again for tolerating a very demanding mayor who really fly-specs signature projects like this. This is just something that Ron's gotten used to, but it's all to the good. And so, you know, we're lucky as a city to have such a strong team. I want to thank A.A. Will, John McNamara is here. I want to thank the hard work of his crews and all the subcontractors who worked on this project all the way along. And then I also want to thank Barney Frank. He's not here today, but what you're looking at right now is, among other things, a federal earmark. More than 3/4 of this project was paid for by an earmark that Barney Frank put into a transportation bill back in the late 90s. And you know, we live in an era now where earmark has become a 4-letter word, but you know, the reality is that earmarks in Congress make everything else go. They are the lubrication in the legislative process when things aren't working right. When there needs to be a majority formed in Congress, in the past, it's been earmarks that have allowed congressional leaders to put together coalitions to get stuff done. Nothing's getting done in Washington now, and part of the reason is that there aren't earmarks, because, and this is, believe me, I think all of you who are watching this here today think that, you know, sometimes earmarks can be a pretty good thing. So what we have now here is no longer a highway, we have a road. So what's the big deal? Why is that a big deal? Because at its core, this has been a project to reduce a highway to a road. And that means the removal of a few lanes and utilities work and beautification with natural materials like this. But why does that matter? Well, it matters for a lot of reasons. It is a way for the city to reconnect with its waterfront. We have one of the most important waterfronts in America. We're the preeminent fishing port in the country. We are positioning ourselves to become the birthplace of offshore wind development. We are one of the top yachting destinations in America. But we've been cut off from our waterfront for some 2 generations. Now, most of us here, I suspect, virtually everyone here, virtually no one here is old enough to remember what it was like when New Bedford was tied into its waterfront, when the downtown was knitted with the waterfront and one was the other. But this is where Greater New Bedford was seeded. This is where the town some 200 years ago grew out of and became now a metropolitan area of some 250 people. I saw my father in the crowd a moment ago, and what I couldn't help as I got up here today to remember a lot of the stories that he told of his brothers coming down when his father came home from a fishing trip, and how all the kids in the city from fishing families would descend upon the waterfront when they were young, when boats came back home, and how much that waterfront was tied to the city, and that everybody identified and had some connection to the waterfront. Well, we're going to have that again. And so what does that mean? It means a ton. It means a ton for a variety of reasons. The first is that this right here, to pick another metaphor, an important one, is New Bedford's front porch. This is where people form their opinions about the city. We have an early 18th century streetscape here facing the waterfront straight across, and it has to look good. So what you'll see over the next few months is more beautification with the same exacting standard that we applied to Custom House Square over the last few months. People like Custom House Square, almost everybody, because we believe that high design standards and high demand for a heightened demand for beauty in our city pays off in ways that are hard to define. It induces investment. It makes people feel more proud of the place, and it makes people really like to be here. And so I want to just say that you're going to see some developments over the next few months that will make this space as much of a source of pride as I believe Custom House Square will be. In addition, our biggest asset, our strategy as a city, is to build on that waterfront. That's our biggest asset, and to have a walkable streetscape as we have now is only effective if there's something to walk to. We have to have something over there. And so as much as that we are going to maintain the competitiveness of our port and fishing and cargo and offshore wind and all those things, there's also room for more public accommodation, more public contact with the water. Everybody likes in some way to go down to the water and just experience the place. You saw it this summer with the concerts that we put on. We had a series of 7 concerts. I know a lot of you were there this summer, in which people turned out in droves. All we did was put a band out there with a bar. The bar helps, no doubt about it, don't get me wrong. But it also helps to have a great space near the water with music. We had one Friday night this summer where 700 people showed up. These are people who just want to come in contact with their waterfront. And so we're going to continue to put the pedal to the metal there. So I want to thank all of you. I want to thank for being here, for supporting this effort. I want to again thank the state delegation. Thank Mayor Kalitz for pressing the case with Barney Frank back in the late '90s. I want to thank Mayor Lang for really focusing the design efforts here in ways that got the project moving a couple of years ago. And I want to thank my team, people like Derek Santos and Ron LaBelle, Jill McLean, for making it all happen. It's a great day for the city, and it sets us up for more successes to come. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, Mayor. The City of New Bedford is blessed to have very strong representation in the Mass House of Representatives, and we're pleased that they're able to join us today. I'd like to begin by inviting Representative Tony Cabral to say a few words.
Oh, good afternoon. Thank you, Commissioner. It's a pleasure, obviously, to be here. This is a wonderful day. This is a transformative project for the city of New Bedford. This is only phase one. Phase one of this transformative project of Route 18 to finally reconnect the city, not only the downtown area, which is the case today, but the rest of the city to the waterfront. We'll wait for the truck. We already earmarked, myself, the rest of the delegation, the city of Montigny, we already earmarked seed money for phase two. And phase two will be in my district again from Walnut Street south. Phase three will be the north side of the project. It's a little more challenging because of the federal government, but we're going to get there and we're going to get this done. I know the senator. It's always difficult to follow Senator Montigny. He's so passionate about the city, as all of us are. But he really verbalizes that every opportunity he has. But let me remind him, I know he's getting a couple of gray hairs, not many, just a couple. We earmarked this project on the state side twice. The first earmark, yes it was, in the late 90s, then we had to come back and earmark in the year 2000s, on a transportation bond bill. At the time, the chair of that committee actually is the mayor of Braintree today. We had to earmark the second time because the money, and thanks to Bonnie Frank, the money that Bonnie Frank earmarked at the federal level could not be spent without the state match. That's how important of a partner the state has to be. And the state has been a partner, not only a partner, but a full partner in every project in New Bedford, be Route 18, be South Terminal, or any other project that the senator already named. I'm not going to name them all. And our job, my job and the job of this delegation is to go up to Boston every day to make sure that the state not only is a partner, but a full partner at the table with the city of New Bedford to make these projects, in this case, this transformative project, happen. Because it's that important for us to move projects of this nature together. Yes, the last 5 years has been the most exciting years, really, at least for me. After earmarking the second time around, along with Senator Montigny and the rest of the delegation, the last 5 years we spent many times in Boston in meetings at MassDOT on that big conference room that they have, talking, discussing, changing the design that finally you see here today. It took many meetings, from the feds being there, to the state, to the city, to the delegation, but finally, it doesn't meet everybody's wishes, but I think it meets most people's wishes, in particular those folks who were at that table during those discussions, like myself and the rest of the delegation. So we are delighted, we are excited, and I can't wait for us to begin phase two. And phase two will begin. Some of the money is already there. We have to seek some more. Yes, we want to make the federal government our partner as well in that process, and I'm sure they will come to the table as well. A big thank you to all of those who've been patient, to all of those who have done great work, like Ron and all of his folks in his department, and other folks in the state, Region 5. Great job, guys. Great job. So thank you. And let's move on to phase two.
Thank you, Representative Cabral. I would next like to invite up to the mic one of the co-chairs of our State Transportation Committee to say a few words, Representative Bill Strauss.
Thank you for those that are able to hear. Obviously, Jim Phillips, I got to start returning your phone calls. They're laughing at you, you know. Anyway, these are always humbling events for me because you always have to recognize that the people on this side of the podium have had a critical role, but many, in this case hundreds, of essential people over the years who've made a project like this come to completion aren't here. They're not verbalizing these things, so it falls to us. And so I want to acknowledge that the District 5 staff, the people in Boston at MassDOT, and then the prior, as has been acknowledged, the prior mayors, the prior members of Congress, one of whom hasn't been mentioned yet. As anybody who read the newspapers today knows, when the House of Representatives in Washington passes something that's significant, but it's not the whole story. We wouldn't have had this project if waiting on the other side of the building in Washington was not Ted Kennedy. He was a partner in everything that was important and an ideal for this city, and it's worth giving a moment's thought to his legacy, which is what we're standing here today really celebrating, his as well as former Congressman Frank, who did the initial essential work in Washington. So this is a great project. Everyone has articulated the reasons for it. I will say this, the Secretary has given us essentially a blank check to fill in for the numerous projects that over the next days, months, and years we hope to be able to identify for this region in terms of the important transportation connections which are so vital to our development and growth. So thank you. It's an opportunity, it's a humbling opportunity to be a part of the program today, and the check will not bounce. And I'll try and repair my relationship with Jim Phillips, which apparently is suffering. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Representative. Also joining us today, and who I'd like to invite up to say a few words, is Rep. Cosera, also from New Bedford.
Thank you and good afternoon. I'll be brief and underscore what my colleagues in the government have already stated. One is that all good things take time, and this project certainly took time, but it is a positive development for the city. One that's long overdue, and one that will serve not only the merchant community but also the residents and visitors to our community. The second point that I like to make, which has been made, is the debt of gratitude that we owe, in particular former Congressman Frank, for pushing this project and securing federal funding, and as Chairman Strauss said, Senator Kennedy. And I'll leave on this point, which to me, it's a distant memory, but prior to the start of this dedication ceremony, Ron LaBelle said, you know, where I'm standing now, and he was standing at the end of the cobblestone road where the curb was and where those planters are, and he said, there was a gray wooden fence here, and on the other side there was a guardrail, and that was the road. And I said, gee, how quickly we forgot. But this is a great development, and it's a welcome event that we celebrate here today. And as my colleague, Representative Cabral, said, we look forward to the completion of the rest of Route 18. Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to acknowledge that I know Congressman Keating couldn't be here today, but there's a representative from his office also joining us here today, and he passed on the Congressman's congratulations. I think with that, that's the end of our formal speaking program, and I think I'm going to ask District 5 to see where we cutting a ribbon or set it up, John, please. Thank you.
Mom?
Yes?
I've been thinking about it, and I'm not gonna go to college.
What are you saying? You've got to go to college.
Well, they offered me a job, and I want to buy some new stuff, like a new phone, a car.
Son, college is much more important than a new car.
No, Mom, it isn't.
Yes, son, it is.
No.
Yes.
No, Mom. Anyways, it's my decision.
Your decision. Okay, well then decide what degree you're going to get, because you will go to college.
Their tomorrow depends on your words today. The Hispanic Scholarship Fund has the information you need to help your kids go to college and have a better future.